Despite the fact that Justin Verlander was solid in his Mets debut, this team is in a complete freefall. They've now lost 9 of their last 11, and they got swept by the Tigers. We're going to discuss all of that misery on today's edition of Locked On Mets.
You are Locked On Mets, your daily New York Mets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello to all you amazing Mets fans. You're watching Locked On Mets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Ryan Finkelstein. If you want to find any of my work, follow me on Twitter at FinkelsteinRyan. You can also find some of my writing at justbaseball.com, where I work as the managing editor. What a horrible run of baseball we've been seeing with this Mets team. I don't even know how to put it into context or words at this point. It just ceases to be comprehensible. I don't even know where to go with the show today, because this team is in dire straits. And I thought that, hey, you have a nice, easy runway. You're playing the Tigers and the Rockies, then the Reds, the Nationals. This is your chance to get back in this division. I was able to sugarcoat a bad series against the Atlanta Braves with the fact that, the pitching was nowhere near in shape to win that type of a series that they were in. They took a game, and I thought, all right, look, you're 3 games back of the Braves. It's fine. The Mets had Max Scherzer and Justin Verlander start 2 of the games of this series. I can't make that excuse anymore. This team is a disaster right now. And you look at this game on Thursday, first inning, Justin Verlander, in his Mets debut, gives him a pair of home runs. Riley Green and Javi Baez take him yard. Ball game. It was over. It was over because the Mets suddenly can't score. And I will say, Eduardo Rodriguez is off to a great start this season. He's a good starting pitcher. And you can look at the individual game and make your excuses. You can do that. But where's the fight from this Mets team? Where is that desire, that push to say, no, we're not going to get swept by a team that came into this series, 10-17. The Mets fall to 500 in this one. And they muster 3 hits and 1 walk. I get that E-Rod looked great. I do. But you have to be better than that. You just have to be better than that. Justin Verlander, he did his job for the most part. You get 2 runs over 5. Is it a great start? No, but it's his first start coming back. You imagine they were probably, keeping him at a 80 pitch limit. They weren't going to let him go the full 100. He throws 79 pitches, gets 5 strikeouts, touches 97. I mean, he looked like Justin Verlander for the most part. He maybe hung one to Riley Green. Maybe, the pitch to Javi Baez got a little bit too much of the plate. But, I mean, it was on the outside part. And Javi Baez, when he puts a good swing on a baseball, he can drive it a long way. And he did that. I didn't even think those 2 pitches in particular were that horrible. Maybe the curveball a little bit worse than the fastball that was hit out. But the bottom line is, Verlander goes out, gets you 5, and after giving up 2 runs in the first, settles the ship and gives you a chance to get back in that game. And inning after inning after inning, the Mets just did nothing. Nothing. First inning, Nemo and Lindor strike out. 1, 2, 3, the Mets go just down, in misery. Alonso strikes out. Tommy Pham gets a hit. Jeff McNeil strikes out. Pham gets caught stealing. How about that one? Getting caught stealing. Really, you know what? Who cares? Who cares about inning by inning breakdowns? The Mets lineup was horrible. Let's just focus in on the 9th inning. Why don't you have some pride and try to get back in and win a baseball game, right? You have the biggest bonehead decision. Daniel Vogelback, they pinch hit for Alvarez. They put Vogelback up there to try to get on base. He does, and he strikes out. Brandon Nimmo gets a base hit, okay? So you got the tying run to the plate in the ninth inning. That's what you want. And also by him getting on, you have now ensured that as long as a fast guy in Starling Marte doesn't hit into a double play ball, you're going to see Francisco Lindor and Pete Alonso come up to plate. That's what you ensured by Nimmo getting the base hit. Why the hell is he trying to steal second base in that spot? Why? It makes no logical sense whatsoever. It doesn't. And so he tries to steal, he gets gunned down, Marte strikes out, game over. It was as pathetic of an ending to a baseball game as you can possibly fathom. And it's not like this Tigers team's great. And I could say, hey, look, the Rockies are coming in at 12-20 or wherever the record is right now. But how are we positive the Mets are going to turn things around? And again, I've tried to pump sunshine on this thing as much as I could. But when you get swept by the Tigers in this fashion, at a certain point, the benefit of the doubt has to erode, you know? And I even saw, who was it today? I saw someone on Twitter mentioning it. I think it was Jolly Olive of Shea Station and John Boy Media. I'm pretty sure he tweeted something about, the Braves last year were 15-17 their first 32. A lot of baseball left. And there's 130 games left. The Mets have all the time in the world to at least be a wild card team. But I'm not seeing that path at the moment. I'm not seeing where this team gets better enough to be a Braves of last year. I'm not saying the Mets are going to make the playoffs. I still think that they'll figure things out enough to be a wild card team. And I'm not also going to just say the division's completely over in May. But to see the path to the Mets going from 16-16 to 101 wins, do we think that this ball club, the way they've looked up to this point, is going to win, what is that, 85 of 130? I think I did the math on that right, yeah. I don't know. They have to find, I'm pretty sure Justin Verlander just said today, they have to find a new identity. They got to find their identity as a winning baseball team. And look, maybe you can start to stack some wins on top of each other. But right now, I don't know where this team goes. I think they need to shift up their lineup. I think they might have to shift up personnel. I want to get some ideas that I have for where this team can get better before I preview the Mets-Rockies series in just a minute. But I want to flush this one and never talk about what I just watched over the last couple of days because Mets-Tigers was absolutely disgusting. Before we get to what could change and get better, though, today's episode is brought to you by RocketMoney. Try it free for 30 days. How many times have you heard that? Then, after you try it for free, you completely forget about it, and suddenly you're paying a subscription every single month. 80% of people have subscriptions that they forget about, okay? You could be wasting money and not even realizing it, and that's where RocketMoney comes in to help you find those forgotten subscriptions so you can stop paying for ones you don't use. Do you know how much money subscriptions really cost? Most Americans think it's around $80 a month that they spend on subscriptions, but the actual cost is closer to $200. If you don't know exactly how much you're spending every month, you need RocketMoney. RocketMoney is a personal finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps you lower your bills all in one place. Over 3 million people have used RocketMoney, saving the average person up to $720 a year. Stop throwing your money away. Cancel unwanted subscriptions and manage your expenses the easy way by going to rocketmoney.com/lockedonmlb. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedonmlb. rocketmoney.com/lockedonmlb. So where do the Mets go to find that extra spark? Last year, the Braves, okay, Michael Harris comes up and they roll. The Mets already have started to do that with their prospects. And like I said, you can lean into the prospects and that could be what changes the complexion of your team. If Brett Beatty and Francisco Alvarez are the answers, if Mark Fantus or Ryan Mauricio comes up at some point. But the puzzle pieces don't quite fit together. Because I look at this lineup right now, And the area of biggest concern on a day-to-day basis is, well, for one, it's the fact that Starling Marte is not playing up to his standards, and that's hurting the team because you're not going to bump him from the lineup. I did think you could bump him down the lineup, but I've called for that. But then again, Jeff McNeil's not really off to the start that you wanted to be to necessitate him going up that much more either. I mean, you're in this position where you're hoping that the same lineup from last year will click, but that lineup on a larger scale, for the most part, got kind of career years up and down. Like Brandon Nimmo, Jeff McNeil, career years. Pete Alonso wasn't a career year. He's always kind of steady, but he was really, really good. Francisco Lindor was second best season of his career. Starling Marte, amazing. If all these guys aren't clicking, where are you getting that extra performance? And right now, the thing that jumps out to me the most is that left field has been a disaster because Marquette and Tommy Pham have not been hitting well. Okay, they hit their home runs every once in a while, particularly Pham has had a couple, but overall, you still look at the larger portion of this season and these guys aren't getting the job done. Okay, well, how do you answer left field? What do you do differently? You slide McNeil into the outfield? Okay, well, who's playing second base? As much as I have, touted Louis Guillorme in the past, he's not swinging it well. Is Danny Mendick the answer in Syracuse? Maybe he helps. But I don't know if he's starting second baseman that comes in on his horse and saves the team. McNeil's a left fielder. So that doesn't necessarily answer it. Mark Vientos, as much as I want him in this lineup, and we'll discuss him a little bit more, he doesn't play left. They tried it. It was a disaster. He's splitting time between first and third this year. Do you already take Brett Beatty, who you thought was your answer, at third and push him to left to accommodate Vientos' bat in the lineup? It would be a bold move. I don't think the Mets are going to do that. How do you get Vientos in the lineup at DH? Yes, you could make a maneuver to try to make him your DH against left-handed pitching, but now you have two roster spots of positionless guys in Vogelback and Vientos. So that makes things more complicated. The Mets are in a weird spot, and ultimately you just need like Mark Canada to step up and play to the back of his baseball card, and Starling Marte to do the same, and then maybe this lineup would steady itself. But again, when Lindor and Alonso aren't clicking, everything seems to crumble around them. And I'm not overtly concerned. Like I'm not completely pushing the panic button. But man, when you can't score anything against the Tigers, you start to question some things. And this team needs a reality check because, look, you've just lost 9 of your last 11. We can rewind the tape to the middle of the West Coast trip where the Mets swept the A's, beat the Dodgers, and took the first 2 from the Giants. And this team looked like the same one from last year that was going to just roll. And the team from last year, while they did have their ups and downs, while they went through a fair share of injuries, they never faced the amount of adversity that this current group is going through right now, where the rotation just can't seem to get any continuity going, and suddenly you just lost 9 of 11, and not even against good baseball teams. I mean, the Braves, yes, but you just got swept by the freaking Tigers. They got an opportunity against the Rockies to get back on track. But if they don't this weekend at home against a team that, in my memory bank, they seemingly beat up pretty good at Citi Field. We're going to have a lot of questions and concerns come Monday. So we're going to preview that series in just a minute. Before we do, though, today's episode is brought to you by Sorare. Our new sponsor, Sorare, is a revolutionary fantasy baseball game and marketplace transforming fans into owners with officially licensed digital cards featuring players from across all 30 teams. Unlike other fantasy baseball platforms, Sorare managers truly own their fantasy experience, collecting, buying, selling, and competing with player cards against global opponents to win epic rewards. Win or lose, you still own your cards, and there's no cost to play. Plus, the more you win, the more you advance, collecting increasingly powerful cards and accessing next-level competitions and rewards. Sorare MLB managers who rank at the top or near the top of their leaderboards win a variety of rewards, which can include Sorare scarcity cards, game tickets, merchandise, signed jerseys, VIP experiences like meeting MLB stars, and so much more. Prizes may vary depending on the competition. If you want to get in on all the fun, head to sorare.com/lockedon. That's spelled SORARE.com. To draft your team of free player cards, set up your lineup, and start competing today to win epic rewards. Again, that is sorare.com/lockedon to start playing today. sorare.com/lockedon. Start playing today. The Mets are set to take on the Colorado Rockies this weekend in a 3-game set. The Rockies, as I alluded to earlier, are 12-20 this year, but they've won 4 in a row. So you can look at that 2 ways. 1, they're rolling right now. 2, they were 8-20. So you would think this is a series where the Mets could rally the troops and find a way to win some damn baseball games, right? Game 1, Antonio Senzatella versus Kodai Senga. Senzatella making his first start coming off an ACL injury. So first of the season for him. Maybe he's a little rusty. Maybe the Mets could take advantage of that. Righty on the mound. So you're going to have your typical lineup with Vogelback and Beatty. And you hope that team can come together and score more than, the 0 runs they put up on Thursday. And Kodai Senga. You think that this is a Rockies lineup that he should be able to fare pretty well against at home. So we'll see. Game 2, Austin Gomber versus Tyler McGill. Gomber, 7.57 ERA on the year. Tyler McGill, ERA just over 4. Another matchup that could favor the Mets. Then you got Ryan Feltner on Sunday, 4.68 ERA versus TBD. I don't know where the Mets go on Sunday, and this kind of continues to show the issue with this season. The Mets are in a weird place right now because you have on the roster, I guess, the 5-man rotation they would like moving forward, which would include Justin Verlander, Max Scherzer, Kodai Senga, Tyler McGill, and Joey Lucchesi. But Lucchesi just pitched, so he's not going to be ready to go come Sunday. Scherzer slated to start the first game of the series against the Reds next week. He's not ready to go. Verlander obviously just pitched. So you're going to have another game where the Mets got to figure it out. I'm sure they'll make that decision, Saturday night, depending on how rested the bullpen is, what they need from them over the next couple of days. Does David Peterson get the quick call back up? I don't believe he's pitched in the minors yet after being optioned. Are they putting him on ice for a situation like this? And are you just burning an option like that? And could they even call him up? The Mets can always manipulate the injury thing. He went down after that series. Friday night, I believe he went down after pitching against the Braves. So, I guess they may be calling him. I don't know where they go on that start. And that just shows their issues. I mean, you'd hope that they could make this rotation that is suddenly formed on the active roster stick, and they can take some turns, and Joey Lucchesi and Tyler McGill and Kodai Senga get in a rhythm to form that back end, and that Justin Verlander, Max Scherzer step up. But there's, again, no continuity there to believe in it. So we'll just see. We'll see. I do plan on recording an extra show this weekend to make one up for missing those few on the honeymoon. And I really want to focus in that podcast primarily on what Mark Vientos is doing in AAA, because he's Barry Bonds down there, and how do you get his bat into this lineup, which I know we touched on today, but I want to spend more time on it. And then I'll probably recap Friday's game on that podcast as well. So for all you everydayers, check out a podcast coming your way Saturday morning. Other than that, though, we'll have a full series recap, I believe, with the host of Locked On Rockies. So that'll be there for you on Monday. As always, thank you for listening. Make sure you follow, rate, and review wherever you get your podcast. Make sure you follow me on Twitter at Finkelstein Ryan. Follow the show at Locked On Mets. Thank you for making Locked On Mets your first listen every day. Now for your second listen, check out Locked On MLB. Paul Francis Sullivan has you covered with everything going on in Major League Baseball. You can find him on Twitter, wherever you get your podcast, and the show on YouTube as well.